we tickle you down with lots of laughter.
That's why I'm saying I'm who is who.
Huh?
With satire like no other.
Tell him to bring it on.
Dakachapa.
Mvuvi akawa dereva. Dau limekushinda huko kijijini, umekuja kusumbua watu huko mjini.
Wewe aiso, kwa hivyo kombo wewe umemea pembe.
Kwa hivyo ukizidi kunidanganya Wanaelewa? Kila kitu kiko sawa?
Maybe hiyo swali nikuulize wewe. Sababu mimi nawapigia simu na mshiki simu.
Nimekataa kula eti kisa eti. Tatizo takanidekeze.
This is one of the finest vodkas that I bought from Russia before their borders were closed.
Levi, hana kazi. Alafu?
Jane, I think you've had enough now. We have a visitor.
Oh, I don't pity.
Ouch.
I'll be patient enough.
You need to tell him the truth. Now you're coming to lock that gate. No, Jane, no. No.
Hey, then Natio get wazi.
Jane.
Where is she?
Can I see you outside?
You are trying to snatch Jane away from my hands.
Kuna shida?
Tuesday, the 23rd of 2022. This is KBC Prime Edition coming to you from Broadcasting House right here in Nairobi, Kenya. Good evening. My name is Mboya. Top in this live broadcast. State asked to protect a 9-year-old girl who is the sole witness in the murder of her mother by her father.
For those mixed schools, I'm told that there are a few schools which are both boarding and day. The day scholars should remain at home for that Monday, report the following day.
Delayed polls. Day schools in 8 electoral areas to close on Monday to pave way for elections. Reforms in the film sector. The regulator redefines the role of agents. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Lucy Mwaura. Our socials at KBC Channel 1. My Twitter handle at Tomboya24. Straight to our top story. The state has been asked to protect a 9-year-old who is the only witness in the murder of her mother allegedly by her father. And elsewhere, the author of a feasibility study in the 8 million shilling graft case against former Busia Governor Sospeter Ojamong has been summoned to clarify the variations in versions of the document possessed by the prosecution as well as the defense. Sarafina Robi opens our coverage with that article in the corridors of justice.
Family members of Susan Waruiru, who was allegedly murdered by her husband in Githiga in Kiambu County, are now calling upon Witness Protection Agency to protect the deceased 9-year-old daughter, who is said to be the only witness in the murder of her mother. Speaking at Kiambu Law Court, the family said Waruiru's husband was arrested as a suspect in the murder and that after the burial his family took custody of their daughter. They now suspect the accused family could influence the child's testimony.
And the accused person is her father. We feel that the child continues to stay with the parents of the accused person. The witness, she's not guaranteed to give a credible witness as she will be compromised. They can be placed under Witness Protection Agency, and now we will be seeking that and the government to protect this particular child so that she will not be exposed. She was the only person who was at the scene of crime at the time the murder happened.
Meanwhile, the prosecution in former Busia Governor Sospita Ojamong's 8 million shilling fraud case now wants the anti-corruption court to summon the author of a document from the government printers due to varying information in the document they have from that possessed by the defense team. The document was produced by one of the witnesses from the defense team in the case where Ojamong and 5 others have been charged with the loss of 8 million shillings from the Busia County coffers on a solid waste management feasibility study project.
How is a court supposed to do this? The short answer is by considering the document, the evidence in chief in support of the document, the cross-exam on the document, and the corroborative value or evidences produced in support of that document.
Anti-corruption magistrate Douglas Ogoti is to give directions on the document in question on Wednesday on the 24th of August. Abdikhair Mohammed for Prime Edition.
Of course, that story was voiced by Abdur Mohammed, but processed by Sarafina Robi. Now, let's get the latest from schools in Mombasa, Kakamega, and 6 other electoral areas will be closed on the 29th of Monday to pave way for the elections that have twice been postponed to take place. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says that the affected schools will resume operations on the 30th of August.
The Education Cabinet Secretary was assessing the preparedness of schools in Nairobi to implement the competence-based curriculum when he stated that learning must still continue even as voters in areas where elections were postponed go to the polls next Monday.
For those mixed schools, I'm told that there are a few schools which are both boarding and day. The same will apply. The day scholars should remain at home for that Monday, report the following day. The boarding scholars should remain in school and remain away from the polling areas.
Magoha said to minimize disruption of learning in those areas, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission can use facilities in primary and secondary schools as well as higher learning institutions. He, however, stated that boarding schools will not be closed.
But we have also agreed that the tallying centers, which may require more than one day, we have agreed mutually that they should be taken to tertiary institutions.
The elections to be held on Monday are for the gubernatorial seat in Mombasa and Kakamega counties, member of National Assembly in Pokot South, Kitui Rural, Rongai and Kachiliba constituencies, and member of County Assembly in Nyaki West in North Imenti constituency and Kwajenga Ward in Embakasi South constituency. The elections had been postponed following errors in the ballot papers. Beatrice Getonyang-Etich, Prime Edition.
Now, some of the presidential petitions lodged at the Supreme Court Monday seeking to overturn President-elect William Ruto's victory could be consolidated. Gospel musician come politician Reuben Kigame are among those who want the Apex Court to nullify the elections, claiming that the whole process leading up to the results, as declared by the chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, was marred by irregularities that rendered the final outcome invalid.
What had initially looked like a contest between President-elect William Ruto and his Azimio la Umoja opponent Raila Odinga in the disputed presidential election results took another twist with 8 other petitioners besides Raila's. All the 9 petitions filed on Monday have to be dispensed within the 12 days allocated to the Supreme Court by the law. Gospel musician cum politician Reuben Kigame was barred from contesting for the top seat, and Busia Senator-elect cum politician Okiya Omtata are among notable names seeking to have the court nullify the presidential outcome.
Either I should be able to annul the election, go into a fresh election, or actually find into one of the prayers of Azimio, if they prove it, that the 50% plus 1 was actually never attained, we go for a rerun. So those are the two major things. The Supreme Court will want to operate with the Constitution, because the provision which they are trying to use is in the Election Act, which I think is inferior to the Constitution.
Legal experts say this eventuality could necessitate the consolidation of petitions with similar prayers in the interest of the limited time available.
The issues that have been raised by various petitions, some of them are cut across. Okay, so we expect when the courts are determining, they're going to come up with a list of issues they have to determine, and some of those issues are going to be consolidated. Okay, and 2, you are saying you've seen a bulk of documents, and I think the other side hasn't actually responded. So you are likely to see even more. We haven't seen anything on whether 14 days are sufficient. They may not be adequate, but I think they're sufficient because this country has been on an electioneering mode for years, let me say.
Kigame holds that the electoral body and its chairman Wafula Chebukati violated his political and human rights by disqualifying his application for the top seat. Kakamega Senator-elect and activist Okiya Omtata also wants the presidential results dismissed, stating that no candidate attained the 50+1 threshold as stipulated in the Constitution. Petitioner John Njoroge Kamau, on his part, is seeking the court's interpretation on whether IEBC chairman erred in excluding other commissioners in the final tally. Apart from Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party petition, other petitioners include John Njoroge Kamau, Daniel Kariuki Ngari, Julia Nyokabi Chege, Khalifa, Okiya Omtata, Youth Advocacy Africa, and Reuben Kigame. For Prime Edition, I'm Ben Troy Njue.
Thank you for that report. Well, the big question, do numbers lie? What will the Supreme Court be focusing on as it goes through and to determine the Raila petition? On Kenya Decides a little later on, my colleague JJ Kuria is hosting a panelist, and the topic of discussion tonight is the Supreme petition. Now, moving on, governors-elect in 45 counties will take oath of office Thursday, the August 25th, 2022. The Assumption of Office of Governor Committee in the regions are working round the clock to ensure a smooth transition process. The law mandates that the swearing in of the governor-elect shall occur at a public ceremony before a High Court judge. The judiciary has already issued guidelines that allow a seamless exercise, especially in counties where outgoing governors have served their 2 terms of 10 years or have not been re-elected to the office after the first term.
Singishu County, the Assumption of the Office of Governor Committee says the swearing-in of Governor-elect Jonathan B. Chililim will be held at the Eldoret Sports Club. The committee's chairman, who is also the county secretary, Edwin Bett, says attendants are required to be seated by 9 a.m. and the ceremony will start at 10 a.m.
Inafaa kuwa hiyo ceremony ya swearing in inafanywa kutoka saa 4 hadi saa 8. Haifai kupita hapo. Kwa hivyo tunataka kuomba wananchi wetu wakuje. Mipango yote iko tayari, maandalizi imepangwa. Tutakuwa na jaji wa mahakama kuu ambaye atakuwa yeye ndiye atapreside over the ceremony, the swearing in bit, na kutakuwa na mambo mengine ambayo yatafanyika kuhusiana na hiyo procedure.
Separately, the county government of Kisii says every box has been ticked to ensure the swearing-in ceremony runs smoothly for the region's governor-elect, Simba Arati swearing-in ceremony. Kisii County Secretary Patrick Lumumba says they expect a record attendance at the 10,000 capacity Gusii Stadium to witness Governor-elect Simba Arati and his deputy Dr. Robert Monda take oath of office.
Kisii will be peaceful, and we are asking even the residents who are not already in Kisii to make travel arrangements to come to Kisii.
Operations are taking place countrywide to ensure the new county bosses are inaugurated as guided by the law. 45 counties elected their governors on Tuesday, August 9th, 2022 general election. Among those elected are 7 women governors: Susan Kihika in Nakuru, Gladys Wanga in Homa Bay, Cecily Mbarire in Embu, Kawira Mwangaza in Meru, Wavinya Ndeti in Machakos, Fatuma Achani in Kwale, and Anne Waiguru in Kirinyaga County. The electorate in Kakamega and Mombasa counties will elect their governors on Monday, August 29th, 2022. Irene Mchuma Odim, the Prime Edition.
Of course, we'll be keeping an eye for you on those swearing-in ceremonies. Moving on, the Kenya Film Classification Board has initiated the process of redefining the role of film agents in the country in a raft of measures aimed at reforming the sector. KFCB Acting Chief Executive Officer Christopher Wamboa says agents will no longer issue licenses to content creators, but will instead be confined to providing international standard services to foreign films as well as television producers. Here is that report.
According to the Kenya Film Classification Board, the current practice of obtaining licenses through film agents inhibits market entry for aspiring creatives, thus stifling growth in the sector.
To create an enabling environment for our youth to harness the opportunities in the local creative economy, the KFCB has resolved to redefine the role of film agents in Kenya with a view to confining it to provision of international standard services to foreign film and television producers.
KFCB Acting Chief Executive Officer Christopher Wamboa noted the redefinition of roles will see filmmakers obtain licenses from KFCB without having to go through a film agent.
It is our expectation that the reconfiguration of the license scope for film agents will remove barriers to entry for aspiring local filmmakers and thus create a facilitative environment for the sector to thrive in the aftermath of the debilitating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Wamboa further reaffirmed the board's commitment to improving the regulatory environment in the film sector to spur the continued growth of the local creative economy.
The framework, which has already been subjected to public consultation, seeks to involve broadcasters and online streaming services in the examination and rating of audiovisual content meant to be broadcast, distributed, and exhibited on their platform.
The new guidelines also aim to create an enabling environment for the youth to harness opportunities in the creative industry. Jacqueline Masharia for Prime Edition.
Well, that story brings us to our first break right here on Prime Edition. Do stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Kupata Zaburi 18 mstari wa pili, dial star 811 star 817 hash. Mwenyezi Mungu ni mwamba wangu, ngome yangu na mkombozi wangu. Mungu wangu, mwamba wangu ninayemkimbilia ninapohitaji kuwa salama. Zaburi 18 mstari wa pili. Zaburi 18 mstari wa pili, dial star 811 star 817 hash. Star 811 star 817 hash.
My baby, my son.
He was stillborn, Dad.
What?
Yes. I already told you no. No, there's nothing there for me.
What would you like? I want the same as always. Why do you keep asking when you know I want the same thing every day? I'll get it right away.
But if you like, I can stop looking for
Oh
it.
no, that's impossible.
In that case, you need to give me more money to continue the investigation.
Find something that inspires you instead of feeling sorry for yourself all the time. Why don't you help me at the hotel?
What?
Welcome back to Prime Edition. Our socials at KBC Channel 1, my Twitter handle at Mboya24. Let's go to Nakuru on that swine flu outbreak story. The government has assured Nakuru residents that a recent outbreak of swine flu in Elementaita ward has been contained and that there is no cause for alarm. Nakuru County Public Health Chief Officer Dr. Daniel Wainaina says that adequate mitigation measures have been put in place to control the spread of the virus to other areas.
Following the recent outbreak of swine flu in Elementaita ward in Nakuru County, the county government has moved in to assure area residents that all measures have been put in place to contain the situation.
The outbreak is contained. There is no cause for alarm. And as I've said, it's affecting a small group of the very young. And we've been able to put in public health measures to mitigate and to curtail this outbreak.
Nakuru County Public Health Chief Officer Dr. Daniel Wainaina says 8 children below 1 year of age are admitted with mild signs of the virus.
Most of our patients from the analysis are below 1 year. And below 1 year, you'd expect that the immunity is not very strong. And as such, and the management is just supportive management in terms of ensuring that they are able to be fed, they are kept warm, and they are given antibiotics to prevent any other concurrent infection.
Members of the public have been urged to maintain high hygiene standards and consume proper diet.
Good nutrition and good ventilation. Whenever you're in a room, ensure that it's well aerated so that we prevent this. It's a droplet infection.
The flu was first reported on the 27th of July this year at Kiptangwanyi Health Center in Elementaita ward. At that time, a large number of children below 1 year presented with the flu symptoms, including high fever, difficulty in breathing, and prolonged cough. This is the second time that swine flu has hit Elementaita ward, with the first incidents reported in February of the year 2020. Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
From Nakuru straight to the coast, Kenya will benefit from enhanced educational standards through the ongoing benchmarking of policies and engagements between the Ministry of Education and the government of Finland. Speaking in Mombasa during the official opening of a 4-day international conference on enhancing education in Kenya, Chief Administrative Secretary, Ministry of Education, Sarah Ruto, underscored the critical role played by education institutes in sustainable development.
Chief Administrative Secretary, Ministry of Education, Sarah Ruto, noted the timelines of the conference being held under the theme Co-creation of Curriculum, Training, Policy Development and Linking Education to Industry comes at the right time when the country is undergoing various curriculum and social-economic changes.
Any country is as good as the opportunity it gives its young people to be able to grow, both academically, so that they can also come and be part of the development process of the country. But you cannot talk about development without first talking about the individual development.
The CAS has, however, urged parents to embrace the transition of pupils to junior secondary under the competence-based curriculum CBC, as the Ministry of Education has put in place measures and policies to foresee a smooth and seamless transition.
In terms of prioritization, just the lab that can be used both for biology, physics, chemistry are very important. Now that we are going into CBC, there are other rooms that are also important. Like, for example, we want to introduce children to an array of pre-technical, career studies and pre-technical. So a room in which these learning can happen is important for all schools to identify. So increasing equality among schools is about giving more resources, but also sharing information.
Finnish Max Global representative to Kenya, Karita Proki, urged education stakeholders to change their teaching approach by embracing digital education from childhood and setting pilot programs to bring the desired change.
We've been cooperating with Kenyan counties in terms of bringing higher educated students to Finland to study nursing and risk management and physiotherapy and so forth, also at the vocational level. So I think this is why we are here, to enhance our cooperation and tell the story of Finland. Finnish education has been very successful, and it has been, talked in many media.
Principal Secretary, State Department of University Education and Research, Simon Abukwesi, lauded the partnership between Kenya and Finland, saying it will enhance adoption of best practices in education.
We are here to notify Kenyans that opportunities are here, and the Finnish people are very friendly and willing to support Kenyans who are thirsty for more education to go to Finland. At the same time, to learn from their best practices, especially in training implementers of CBC.
The conference is being held over 4 days in Mombasa County. For Prime Edition from Mombasa County, I'm Michael Mondiga.
On to that story of the IBC officer who died. Police in Laikipia County have dismissed as false reports that an independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission returning officer, Geoffrey Gitobu, was murdered. Gitobu, who oversaw elections in Gishugu constituency as in Kirinyaga County, collapsed and was pronounced dead after being rushed to hospital. Details in our county news roundup.
And police in Embu County have launched a manhunt for burglars who made away with electronics worth 105,000 shillings from a house belonging to Embu Senior Principal Magistrate Henry Nyakweba over the weekend. Nyakweba said that the thieves gained entry into his house after making a hole on the fence.
But coming back on Sunday morning at 6 a.m., she found the house broken into. This security is an issue here, especially after Kazi Mtaani is stopped. When the Kazi Mtaani is ongoing, you can't hear anything. But let it stop. If you take 1 week peaceful, you are lucky.
In Isiolo County, at least 20 families have been rendered homeless and property worth millions destroyed at Isiolo Market following a night fire. The inferno, which started at the market, reduced tolls to ashes and spread to the nearby informal settlement of Tumtum, where houses were razed to the ground.
Area sokoni, watu wameenda hasara kubwa sana. Manyumba ilianza kuchomeka, moto ikakuwa uncontrollable. Kama unaona hizi ma wholesale pia hizi zilikuwa na stock ya pesa mingi sana. So hapa watu wameenda hasara mamilioni ya pesa.
Elsewhere, Mandera County Commissioner Onesmus Kiatha has urged residents to cooperate with security agents in a bid to maintain peace in the area. Kiatha said that with cooperation of locals, chiefs can play a key role in stemming incidents of insecurity.
Sisi wote tujibidiishe, tuhakikishe kwamba sisi wote tumehakikisha kwamba kuna amani ya kutosha. Tushirikiane na tuendelee kushirikiana kwa kupasha habari kwa vitengo zote za serikali ili kuhakikisha kwamba tunazingatia na kuweka amani ya kutosha.
And in Kakamega County, former employees of the Mumias Sugar Factory held peaceful demonstrations to protest alleged harassment by the management of Sarai Company. Led by Patrick Mutimba, the employees also decried poor working conditions.
Kama safety audit ingefanyika vizuri, Dickson ingangahange kufa. Tunataka government agencies wakuje wafanye audit ili watu wasiendelee kukufa.
Still in Kakamega, the region's water supply company is warning those with illegal connections of dire consequences if found culpable. The executive officer, Christabel Ashiono, said the company has incurred losses due to the actions of unscrupulous individuals. Esther Bodo, Prime Edition.
Lieutenant General retired Lazarus Sumbeiywo was the commander of the Kenya Army at a time the military was undergoing great transformation. During his days as the commander, He earned the nickname ZT for his zero tolerance for corruption. Nisi Mano paid the retired decorated general a visit at his Nairobi home. Here now is Lieutenant General Sumbeiywo's story in a weekly feature, Military Tales.
40 years are gone by since the 1982 aborted coup that had targeted to overthrow President Moi from office. Lieutenant General Lazarus Sumbeiywo and his late brother Elijah Sumbeiywo, then the presidential escort commander, played a critical role in securing President Moi and quelling the attempted coup.
In 1982, I was posted to the Air Force. I was then at the rank of Major. I was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel and was in charge of personnel.
Before cockcrow on the fateful August 1st, General Lazarus received a call from his late brother Elijah Sumbeiywo, who was then the presidential escort commander.
So at 5 o'clock in the morning he rang. And you know, that time there were no mobiles. We were using telephone. So I picked the phone and he said, "Are you still sleeping?" I said, "Yes, I'm still sleeping." He says, "No, don't sleep. The government has gone." I said, "Gone with who?"
General Lazarus then took off for State House immediately, together with 6 armed military soldiers.
I went to Cabernet, to the State House first, and then to Kabarak. And at Kabarak, I found Mzee very agitated.
When he got there, he immediately asked to communicate with the police headquarters, a thing that did not happen.
They say Nanyuki is not friendly. So I told Mzee, let's get out of this house. We can be bombed. He said, "No, I can I'll die in my house."
Mzee Moi refused to leave his State House aboard, but eventually convincing and relocating the president in 3 civilian cars with presidential escorts armed to the tooth.
My idea at that time was to connect with the military because they have a system of radios that used to join. We could join into any communication system. But unfortunately, one of the vehicles, the relay system, had an accident in Timboroa. And so we could not relay.
The army eventually neutralized the coup and the president was taken to State House, Nairobi, where a presidential address had been planned for the President Moi to assure the country he was in charge.
Nataka niseme kwamba yale yaliyotokea leo asubuhi kwa muda mfupi iliyoletea wananchi wasiwasi mwingi sasa imeangamizwa na jeshi letu la nchi kavu na polisi.
From 1997 to 1999, Sumbeiywo served as special envoy to IGAD for the Sudan peace process.
I want us to be patient. The parties have promised us that they will sign it today.
I knew a little bit of what was going on. So in 1997, out of the blue, the late President Moi appoints me an ambassador and a special envoy. Not retired from the military, but given this job of carrying out mediation for the Sudanese.
General Lazarus Sumbeiywo was the chief mediator of the Naivasha peace process, which sought to resolve the war between the Sudanese government and the Sudan People's Liberation Movement. In July 2002, he led the warring parties into signing the Machakos Protocol, a groundbreaking agreement on the difficult issues of self-determination for the South and separation of religion and state.
Put in a lot of nights without sleep and going to lengths to ensure that the people of that country got peace.
Lieutenant General retired Sumbeiywo joined the Kenya Army in 1967 as a cadet officer.
My father had always wanted one of his sons to be in the army. Because my father himself was in the army in 1922 to 1934. And he wanted a son to feel how the army is.
Sumbeiywo attended the prestigious Royal Military Academy Sandhurst and rose through the ranks to become the commander of the Kenya Army in 2000.
In 1999, I went to do my master's in international relations in Royal College of Defense Studies. When I came back to the army, I found a very different army, an army that had already deteriorated in discipline. They had lost touch with training, and so I had to think of how to revive this army.
At the time of his appointment, the armed forces was in the flux of changes initiated by the then Chief of General Forces, General Daudi Tonje.
By the time I left the army, it had trained. The army had proper equipment, had proper uniforms, and that's what the soldier is. And discipline had returned.
In addition to purpose and confidence, Sumbeiywo brought another critical factor with him as army commander. He brought the army back to basics.
Soldiers were in tatters. One of the uniform they were wearing were torn and of low quality. And the boots were wearing were coming off, the heels were coming off. So nobody was serious about proper equipment.
Lieutenant General Sumbeiywo was, in addition to being feared, deeply respected. Hence, he was referred to as ZT or Zulu Tango, meaning zero tolerance.
You must have heard the stories about the army, because when I was in the army, I had a nickname called Zulu Tango, zero tolerance. Officers in the army can attest that I think I made a difference. There was reform, total reform in the army.
Reporting for KBC from Lavington in Nairobi County, Amnesty Imano.
Can't settle down until me get my herbs to burn. We just can't get go down until me get my collie to burn. You don't call anymore, 'cause I'm so thinking about you. Have you found somebody new? Turn it back as fast as you can. Yeah. Roots reggae music up in your bloodstream. Red, gold, and green. Red, gold, and green. Every corner, every lane, every scheme. Red, gold, and green. Red, gold, and green. Yes, enough you know what me mean.
Songea tukupashe na zile ambavyo vitakupa tabasamu tosha.
Hana mapenzi wala mahaba, mtoto mbaya sana huyu. What did you just say?
Sio tamthilia tu.
And why you're saying that
Ni tamthilia tosha.
Alinishika hivi. What?
Sio burudani tu, ni burudani tosha.
It is the day that the Lord has made.
Na sinema bomba.
Kabisa kama uelewi kitu inafaa uelewi.
Na mada za kusisimua. KBC Channel 1, shirika la utangazaji Kenya.
Tangu lini mvuvi akawa dereva? Dau limekushinda huko kijijini, umekuja kusumbua watu huko mjini.
Wewe aiso, kwa hivyo kombo wewe umemea pembe.
Kwa hivyo ukizidi kunidanganya Unaelewa? Kila kitu kiko sawa? Maybe hiyo swali nikuulize wewe. Sababu mimi nawapigia simu na mshiki simu.
Nimekataa kula eti kisa eti. Matatizo utakayendekeza.
Well, thank you for staying with us and welcome back. My name is Caroline Jenga. Let's take a look at today's business news. Equity Group made 24.4 billion shillings in net profit during the first 6 months of this year, representing a 36% increase on 17.9 billion shillings posted during a similar period last year. The profit was mainly driven by 29% growth in interest income and non-funded income, as 99% of all the lenders' customer transactions happened outside the branch network. The Equity Group's profit was driven by a 29% growth in interest income to 55 billion shillings, attributed to an increase in loans, which stood at 650.6 billion shillings. Original equity subsidiaries also contributed 28% of the group's net profit, with the firm's group CEO, James Mwangi, noting that original subsidiaries such as Rwanda and Uganda were posting high returns.
Equity Bank last year closed by being the biggest bank in Kenya, the second largest bank in Rwanda, and DRC, number 5 in Uganda. So we are seeing that we have now become a very strong regional bank.
Equity DRC's cost-to-income ratio reduced to 64 from 75, with Mwangi targeting to lower it further down to 60.
We have seen that it's now half the size of Kenya. It has a balance sheet of over 400 billion shillings. It's contributing 20% of the entire profit of the group.
The entire group targets to reduce the cost-to-income ratio to 40 in 3 years. The lender is yet to fully effect the risk-based loan pricing model so as to allow businesses to recover from COVID and geopolitical disruptions. He says the maximum interest rate the bank is charging is 13%, but under the risk-based pricing model, the rate would have been 18%.
And we did this deliberately to accommodate and to support Kenyans to come out of COVID. We think this will be an extended period because of the current microeconomic environment where inflation has hit very hard and businesses need support.
He noted that out of 171.4 billion shillings, COVID restructured loan book, 46.6 billion shillings has fully been repaid, with only 2.7 billion shillings showing restraint, while a stock of 8.1 billion shillings is marked as non-performing. System outages coupled with poor customer services are the major challenges facing the adoption of internet banking in Kenya. The Deloitte 2022 Kenya Banking Sentiment Index further says almost 6 out of every 10 bank customers prefer mobile banking, up from 5 in 2020. The Deloitte study ranks Absa Bank top with 12.7% in responding to customers' concerns, while Cooperative Bank with 2.6% came in second.
The Deloitte report corresponds with the 2021 Kenya Bankers Association Customer Experience Survey that says customers preferred banking apps followed by mobile banking. In the 2022 Kenya Banking Sentiment Index by Deloitte, customers have taken to social media channels to engage with their service providers. The study shows that on average, only 53% of priority conversations received a public response, meaning almost half of customer requests went unanswered. The study also established that system outages or app downtime and a poor level of responsiveness to consumer queries and complaints pose a significant risk to the banking industry. Data EQ's Managing Director Melanie Milherb said in the case of multiple transacting channels failing simultaneously, consumers are left feeling helpless and frustrated. Overall, in the survey, Absa Bank led in regard to responses to customer concerns with a score of 12.7%, followed by Cooperative Bank with 2.6%. These were the only two banks to achieve positive scores, with the average net sentiment for the industry sitting at negative 7.6%. Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
Now, Kenya is set to start exporting avocados to Malaysia as a delegation from the Asian nation is finalizing a pest risk analysis. The delegation visited the Kakuzi farm and facilities as Kenya seeks to increase its avocado market share in the global market.
Malaysia is set to become Kenya's latest avocado export destination, as a delegation from the Asian market is currently carrying out a pest risk analysis on the Kenyan fruits. The Asian nation is seeking to import both Fuerte and Hass avocado varieties from Kenya by the end of this year. The Malaysian delegation is the latest yet to carry out an inspection tour on Kenyan avocado orchards and processing facilities after India and Mauritius delegations carried out a similar analysis in the past few weeks. The development comes just weeks after Kenya started direct fresh avocado exports to China, following the certification of 15 exporters to start avocado shipments to the Far East nation. An increase in Kenya's avocado export destinations saw the nation take pole position from South Africa as the leading avocado exporter in the region after exporting 44 million kilos of avocado worth 6 billion shillings from March to August this year. This, as a Jordanian delegation also carried out a tour on hot water vapor mango treatment plant at industrial area in Nairobi, as plans to start exporting mangoes to the Middle East nation are at an advanced stage. Kenya is seeking to increase its horticultural exports that saw the country earn 166 billion shillings from the sale of 682,000 tons of assorted products in 2021.
Thank you, Benson Rioba, for that report. Now, the Kenya Tea Development Agency is seeking 3 billion shillings from the National Treasury for subsidizing tea fertilizer for smallholder farmers. The agency says it has imported fertilizer worth 9 billion shillings for distribution to smallholder tea farmers from later this week.
The first consignment of the 1.8 million metric tons of the fertilizer imported from Russia arrived on Saturday, with the Kenya Tea Development Agency seeking to start distributing it to smallholder tea farmers later this week. However, KTDA says it needs the National Treasury to release 3 billion shillings as subsidy for the fertilizer before deciding on the retail price of the farm input.
We are doing compiling the full cost, and you are aware the cost has gone a little bit higher, but we also sought the government to help us with a subsidy. When we do all the costing, by the time the fertilizer will be getting to the factory, they will be told the absolute amount which will cost per bag.
The first consignment contains 820,050 kg bag of fertilizer that is being transported via the standard gauge railway from Mombasa to Nairobi for packaging and distribution. The second batch of the fertilizer is expected in the country on the first week of next month and will contain 471,050 kg bag of fertilizer.
The other one is going to be 940,000 bags. This is 820,000 bags.
Currently, a 50 kg bag of fertilizer costs a high of 7,000 shillings in some regions after prices increased in the global market due to the Russian-Ukraine conflict.
Now, to business stories across the globe, China is facing growing challenges in international services trade as COVID-19 outbreaks curb mobility and softening external demand weighs on firms' operating outlooks. The outbreaks have restricted cross-border movement, hurting travel, construction and exhibitions. Here are the details of that story and more.
Local COVID-19 outbreak interrupted services trade enterprises, leading to challenges in insufficient orders and rising costs, making businesses unstable. Vice Commerce Minister Sheng Kuiping said in a statement that ahead of the upcoming China International Fair of Trading Services, small and medium-sized enterprises, which have relatively weak abilities to ward off risks, are facing greater pressure to survive. China will now accelerate its pace of reopening and promote a negative list from cross-border trade in services. According to data by the State Administration of Foreign Exchange, the country's services trade deficit reached $7.9 billion in June, the biggest since December 2021. Meanwhile, business activity in the Eurozone contracted for a second straight month in August as the cost of living crisis forced consumers to cut spending, while supply constraints also hurt manufacturers. The latest PMI data from the Eurozone point to an economic in contraction during the third quarter of the year. A PMI covering the bloc's dominant service industry fell to 50.2 from 51.2, only just above break-even and below the 50.5. Although services firms increased their charges at a lower rate this month, the output prices index remained well above the long-term average. Its reading was 59.9, down from July. Finally, General Electric workers at a plant in Alabama have launched a campaign to form a union for better pay and job security. The plant in Auburn, Alabama employs 179 workers. It builds fuel nozzles on a daily used by LEAP jet engine, which powers planes in Airborne and Boeing's company. And the Auburn plant experienced layoffs during the pandemic, which led to a 2-year slump in the aviation industry. The company, however, said it has rehired all interested employees and added more than 30 new employees since the start of 2022.
That roundup brings to a close business news for tonight, but do not go anywhere. Richard Munga is on the other end of the studio with a sports update. My name is Caroline Jenga. Have a good night.
Way I can keep you alive. Is by taking your eyes from you to give to her.
You'll marry her in heaven?
Right. I want the whole world to know that she's my wife.
Lady Loria, I'm begging you. Please don't take me from Floretta Court. Please don't.
Even if you speak up for me, no one will believe us. Not even Genova believes.
Sometimes I wish I never left. Probably JJ would be at a better place right now.
And you were not really there when we needed a mother.
Kuna kitu inaitwa ndoto za mchana na dreams. So, jua kutofautisha.
Ukitaka kumake money on a side apart from this job, punguza mdomo.
Kunyamaza pia inakuwa ni gharama sana.
Unajua kuongea lugha ya pesa.
Hello?
I'm planning to call a board meeting.
She has already reached. Okay, let me look at the forms, then I'll get them to you via email.
How would you like working with us?
I'm not quite sure how that would work.
We are on the same side.
We're gonna need Millicent on our side.
Well, good evening and thank you for joining us for tonight's edition of KBC Sports with me, Richard Munga. And we start off our bulletin on quite the unfortunate note. Remember yesterday after the national netball team lost to Zambia 33-40 in the first match. Now the Divas lost their second match of the 2023 Netball World Cup qualifiers after going down 72-31 to Malawi in the second group B match that was played in Pretoria, South Africa.
The Joseph Macau Chargers' hopes to qualify in the World Cup got a hit after losing yet again in the match after a 46-30 loss to Zambia yesterday. Today, Kenya lost 72-31 to Malawi and play Eswatini tomorrow. Following the losses to Zambia and Malawi, Kenya will play the positional playoffs after the group stage phase. South Africa and Uganda have already qualified for next year's Netball World Cup in Cape Town. Uganda opted out of the qualifiers in favor of test matches against England. The top two teams from the tournament, excluding South Africa, who automatically qualify as the host, will make the grade for next year's World Cup. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Once again, the top two teams from the tournament, apart from South Africa, will be qualifying for the World Cup next year. Now to other matters, long-time co-driver to Baldev Chaga, that is Ravi Soni, will be among the star attractions on the race weekend of September 2nd to 3rd, when the 6th round of the Kenya National Rally Championship heads to Ole Naishu and Greystones in Nanyuki. Ravi joins the Minty Motorsport outfit to sit alongside Rajesh Singh Barij in a Skoda Fabia Rally 2, which is the newest race machine in town.
Neil Singh was previously navigated Rajesh Singh in previous KNRC rallies, will be the team manager in a move that has ensured the team is running at its absolute best. Ravi Soni is confident for a podium position in Nanyuki after his fastest drive with Barij.
Obviously left a void, and we'll be looking at a few options. And today we actually tested with somebody that worked out really well.
Nanyuki in I think a couple of weeks. Looking forward to it. I love the Nanyuki stages. So it'll be a good first rally to be in this car with Raji. I hope that everything goes to plan.
The 2022 KNRC series has been to LB Seal, Nakuru, Eldoret and Naivasha for the ARC Equator Rally and WRC Safari Rally. Current leader Karan Patel has 4 wins under his belt, with Carl Flash Tundo winning the KNRC Safari category. The KNRC Nanyuki Rally will start and end at Greystones, which is also the venue for the service park and rally headquarters. Scrutineering shall take place on September 2nd, paving way for action on September 3rd. 3 stages, Mlima Hema, Ole Naishu and Greystones, will be repeated twice for a total competitive mileage of 153.04 kilometers. Clerk of the course Bimal Patel says the designated spectator viewing point will be centered on Greystones. The repeat run on Greystones will indeed serve as the event's power stage, where the fastest drivers will earn bonus points for the championship.
Karanja David with that report. Now to news making headlines internationally. While number 6 tennis player Novak Djokovic says his ultimate career goal is to finish with the lion's share of the men's Grand Slam singles titles. The Serb won his 21st major title with victory at Wimbledon in July, leaving him one behind Rafael Nadal's all-time men's record. The 9-time Australian Open champion was unable to play in Melbourne and could also be missing at the US Open, although the 35-year-old recently said he will be in the draw when the Grand Slam starts on the 29th of August. Djokovic, who was still on the US Open entry list on Monday, has not been vaccinated, which is against COVID-19, and since October 2021, the United States has not allowed non-vaccinated visitors to enter the country. The ruling stopped Djokovic from playing ATP Masters events at Indian Wells and Miami in March and April, as well as the Cincinnati Open last week.
Oh, that is sensational. Incredible hitting off the ground from both guys.
Meanwhile, Manchester United produced an outstanding display to defeat Liverpool 2-1 and give manager Erik ten Hag his first Premier League victory at the Thunderers Old Trafford. United is now placed 14th on the standings, a point ahead of Liverpool and 6 points behind league leaders Arsenal.
Regardless of how their season has started,
Erik ten Hag took the bold decision to drop captain Harry Maguire and Cristiano Ronaldo and was rewarded with a performance that lifted the mood of crisis around Manchester United and leave Liverpool still searching for a first win of the season.
That's a lovely ball back into the penalty area. Real chance for United. Jadon Sancho takes another touch and puts it home. Jadon Sancho opens the scoring for Manchester United.
Jadon Sancho showed superb control and composure to deservedly put United in front after 16 minutes before Marcus Rashford raced clear to beat Alisson from substitute Anthony Martial's pass 8 minutes after the interval.
He's given straight to Anthony Martial, and Martial's got Marcus Rashford with him, and Rashford's away through the middle. Chance for two for Manchester United. It's two for Manchester United, and Marcus Rashford opens his tally for the season.
Mo Salah set up a tense finish when he scrambled in a header with 9 minutes left, but United survived to give Ten Hag just the sort of triumph he needs to make his mark at Old Trafford. The win saw Manchester United move up to the 14th place, a point ahead of Liverpool and 6 points behind league leaders Arsenal.
Manchester United have been...
Well, that's how we wrap up the KBC Sports Update with me, Richard Munga. But don't go too far. Mboya is on the other side of the studio. And after he's done, of course, today being a Tuesday, Kenya Decides will be coming on later with John Jacob Curia. From me in the sports desk, do have a good night.
Thank you very much, Richard, for that update. Indeed, yes, Kenya Decides is coming up shortly with JJ Kioria is hosting a panel list, and tonight's topic of discussion is the presidential petition. Thank you for watching Prime Edition. My name is Mboya. Susan Mora has been our sign language interpreter. And on behalf of the Prime Edition team, good night from Nairobi, Kenya.